This happened about a week ago, and I've only just started to wrap my head around it. It was late in the evening when I got a call from my next door neighbor. He needed help moving a mattress upstairs for his mom, who's been really sick. It was one of those heavy sleep number beds. Of course I said yes. They're good people, always have been. When I got over there, another friend of his was already there helping. A priest, actually. The three of us started working together to detach the mattress from the frame so we could haul it upstairs. Everything went smoothly. We got the bed up, reassembled it, and were catching our breath when my neighbor asked if I could help with one more thing. An armoire in his travel trailer that needed to go upstairs too. Sure, I thought. Why not? So we start moving this massive armoire. It's awkward and heavy, and we're guiding it up the front stairs of the house. 11 steps total. I'm at the bottom, about 6 steps up, supporting the weight from below. Then it happens. They lose their grip. The armoire lurches forward, and I see it falling toward me. I stumble backward, and everything goes black. I fall. I hit the pavement. And then, I wake up. I'm sitting at my dining room table. My phone is ringing. My wife looks at me and asks if I'm going to answer it. It's my neighbor, asking if I can help him move a bed upstairs for his mom. I'm stunned. Everything is exactly the same. Same call. Same voice, same words. I go over there, still in a daze, and sure enough, his priest friend is there. Again. The weird part? I've never met him before today, but I already know exactly who he is. I helped them with the bed. But this time, when my neighbor asks if I can help with the armoire, I shake my head. I can't, I say. I know what happens. He looks at me confused. What do you mean? I tell him. I tell him about the armoire, the stairs, the fall. I tell him I'm pretty sure I just died. At first he laughs. Then I describe the upstairs bedroom in vivid detail. The metal mattress frame, the ornate headboard leaning against the wall. The exact layout. I'd never been up there before. That's when the color drains from his face. The priest and I sat down and talked for nearly an hour. He asked me everything. What I saw, what I felt, what I remembered. But the truth is, I didn't see a tunnel or a light or anything like that. Because I never actually died. I just woke up about 20 minutes earlier in my life, sitting at my dining room table. Everything exactly as it had been. I don't know what to make of it. A glitch in the Matrix? A second chance? All I know is this. I died last night, and I'm still here. It was a normal afternoon. Nothing weird, nothing out of the ordinary. I ran out to the local store to grab a few things, mostly just a 6-pack of bottled water. I parked right in front, same place I always do when there's a spot open, and went inside. The place was quiet, not many customers around. I walked in, grabbed the 6-pack, and made my way to the checkout. Register 2 was open, so I headed there. A young woman was working, maybe early 20s, glasses, soft-spoken. I paid in coins, mostly loose change I'd gathered up before heading out, and she counted it out without saying much. I thanked her, took my water, and headed home. About half an hour later, I realized I'd made a mistake. I wasn't planning to go out again anytime soon, and the weather was starting to turn, so I figured might as well stock up. I grabbed my keys and went back to the store. That's when things got weird. Everything happened in the exact same sequence. I parked in the same spot, walked the same path into the store. The same 6-packs were stacked near the front. Same brand, same shelf, same alignment. I picked one up and walked toward the registers. Register 2 was open again. Same girl working it. I got a strange sense of deja vu, but shook it off. It wasn't until I pulled out my change, Again, almost exactly the same amount, all in coins, that things felt off. She looked up at me slowly, her face instantly drained of color. Her hands froze as she stared at the coins, then at me. It wasn't just confusion. It was genuine unease. Her eyes darted to my face, trying to read my expression, but I was wearing a mask, so all she could see were my eyes. She blinked, clearly trying to piece together something that wasn't computing in her reality. "Didn't you just..." she started, then stopped herself. I said nothing. Just handed over the coins again. Same routine. She hesitated, then took them, eyes still locked on me like she was trying to decide if she was being pranked or haunted. I couldn't help but smile under my mask, but she couldn't see it. For her, it must have felt like a glitch in reality. Like time looped, and she was the only one who noticed. I, M26, have been living with my girlfriend, F25, for 2.5 years. We've always had a solid relationship. Things felt normal, routine even, until about 4 weeks ago when quarantine started. That's when the cracks began to show. Or maybe I just started noticing them. It started with something small. Coffee. My girlfriend has always been a bit of a coffee purist. She'd roll her eyes at me for adding sugar to mine and lecture me about ruining the flavor. It was kind of a running joke between us. But one morning, about 3 weeks into lockdown, I walked into the kitchen and saw her spooning sugar into her coffee. Not just a little, like enough to make a candy bar jealous. I did a double take. "You're putting sugar in your coffee?" She looked up at me like I'd asked if she breathes oxygen. "Yeah, I always do." I laughed, thinking she was messing with me. But she wasn't smiling. In fact, she seemed vaguely annoyed, like I was trying to start something out of nothing. I let it go. People change, right? Maybe quarantine was just messing with her habits. But then it happened again the next morning. Same sugar, same coffee, same exact confused expression when I brought it up. "What are you talking about? I've always used sugar." It started to make me feel off, like I was the one forgetting something. Then, about a week later, we were having sex. Things were heating up, and suddenly she suggested a position we'd specifically decided never to try again. The last time we'd done it, it had gone badly. She got hurt, was visibly shaken, and we both agreed, never again. So when she suggested it, I froze for a moment. "Are you sure?" I asked, gently reminding her of what had happened. She gave me a weird look, then smiled and said, "That wasn't me. You must be confusing me with one of your exes." Except, no, I wasn't. I remember her saying those exact words months ago. Let's never do that again. But she brushed it off, and we did it. And this time, strangely enough, it went fine. She even seemed to enjoy it. At that point, I chalked it up to maybe forgetting how things had really gone down. Maybe we'd overreacted the first time? I don't know, but something inside me kept saying, "This isn't right." Then today happened. This afternoon I was working from home. I'm a PhD student in computer science. My girlfriend walked in, casually scrolling through her phone, and asked, "Hey, what's up with that guy from your company? The one you always talk about?" I paused. "What company?" She laughed a little. "The one you work for? The guy you always mention. Your coworker." I stared at her. "I don't work at any company. I've never had a job outside academia. I started my PhD right after my master's." She stopped cold. We looked at each other for a moment in total silence, like we both realized something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. She looked pale, unsettled. "Wait, what? Of course you work at a company. You talk about your colleague all the time." No, I don't. I've never said anything like that. She started crying. It was like the dam broke. I brought up the coffee, the sex position, all the weird little inconsistencies. She just kept shaking her head, whispering that she didn't understand what was happening, that something is wrong with us. And honestly, I don't know how to explain it either. Neither of us have any history of mental illness. We've been isolated together for weeks, so no external influences that we can think of. But something doesn't add up anymore. It's like our memories don't match, like we're glitching out of sync with reality, or with each other. I don't know who to talk to about this. I don't know what's real anymore. Can anyone explain what's going on with us? I stumbled across this sub today and instantly thought of something that stuck with me for years. It's something my family still brings up sometimes, half as a joke, half as a mystery. But even now, over a decade later, I get a cold feeling in my stomach when I think about it. This happened in the summer of 2009. I was 16, school had just let out, and it was the first real weekend of freedom. I remember waking up around 11 a.m. to a totally empty house. No noise, no movement, just the sun pouring through my blinds and the smell of summer air drifting in through a cracked window. I got up, grabbed something to eat, and headed downstairs to the basement to watch TV. Our old setup, tucked away with the good couch and the bigger screen. I had plans to hang out with a friend later that afternoon at 3 p.m., so I figured I had a few chill hours to burn. Here's where it gets strange. I thought I had only been watching TV for maybe 30, 40 minutes tops when suddenly my mom came down the stairs looking frazzled. First thing she says is, "Where have you been all day?" I just kind of stared at her, confused. "What are you talking about? I've been down here for like an hour." She gave me the sharp look and said, "It's after 5. We've been calling you. You were supposed to be with your friend hours ago." I remember laughing at first, thinking she was messing with me. But then I looked at my watch. 5:17 p.m. I bolted upstairs. My phone was lit up with missed calls and texts, at least 5 from my friend asking where I was, and a couple from my mom too. I just stood there staring at the screen, heart starting to pound. And then my mom tells her side of the story. She and my younger brother had been at his baseball game from 1 to 3 p.m., totally routine. But here's the thing. She swears that when they got back home, I wasn't there. She called for me, checked the house, looked in the basement, the lights were off, the couch was empty. I wasn't there. Which is terrifying because, from my perspective, I never left. I woke up at 11, went to the kitchen, went to the basement. I never fell asleep, never left the house, and certainly never blacked out. But somehow, between the time I sat down to watch TV and the time my mom came downstairs, over 4 hours had passed, and no one, not even my own mother or brother who were in the same house, had seen or heard me. It's like I slipped out of time, or maybe time slipped around me. We still talk about it now and then, usually as a weird little anecdote. Remember that time you vanished for a whole afternoon? But I never tell them how much it still eats at me. It didn't feel like a nap. It didn't feel like zoning out. It felt normal, until suddenly it wasn't, and I've never been able to explain it. I'm honestly in shock right now. My boyfriend and I were cooking together in his late mother's kitchen, something we've done dozens of times before. He was looking for breadcrumbs, which we always have on hand, and I told him to check the rotating cabinet. He looked. Nothing. So I went to check myself. Also, nothing. I spun that cabinet around at least a dozen times. Nothing. He tried again. Still nothing. Just to be sure, I even reached behind the turntable section thinking maybe the canister had fallen off. I pulled out some seriously ancient stuff, clearly untouched since his mom was alive, probably more than 7 years ago. But still, No breadcrumbs. So whatever. We moved on. We improvised and threw some croutons in the blender to make our own. Problem solved. Then, a few minutes later, he went back to the exact same cabinet to grab something else, and suddenly stops dead. "You're not going to believe this," he says. "Maybe Mom's messing with us." There they were. 2 cans of breadcrumbs, sitting right there in plain view, exactly where we always keep them. I'm not exaggerating. You could literally spot them from the next room. They weren't behind anything. Nothing was stacked in front, just sitting there, perfectly visible. I swear to you, they were not there when we looked, repeatedly. We weren't rushing. We weren't distracted. And I refuse to believe we both somehow missed them a dozen times. My boyfriend isn't a prankster. He couldn't keep a straight face if he tried to mess with me like this. And we're the only ones in the house. I wish I could post a picture here so you could see how obvious they are. I'm just baffled. Either we slipped into a parallel universe for 5 minutes, or his mom is having a laugh from beyond. I still can't wrap my head around this. I woke up in my apartment to find everything the opposite of how I left it. And I mean, literally reversed. It was so unsettling that I ended up calling my mom in a panic at 4 a.m. just to tell her what had happened. Let me give you a little context about a couple of the objects involved. I have this large wedge pillow I keep near my bed. It's dense, kind of heavy, not something that gets moved around easily. I use it when I want to sit up in bed to read or scroll on my phone. And then there's my LA migraine lamp. It's this sleek, cylindrical light that gives off a calming green glow when it's right side up. Flip it over, and it emits normal white light, but that also means the charging port ends up on the bottom, making it impossible to charge in that orientation. It lives on my nightstand. So the night starts like this. I get home around midnight after hanging out with a friend. We'd been drinking coffee, so I wasn't super sleepy yet. I changed into pajamas, sat on my bed, and tossed the wedge pillow to the floor, away from the bed, where it always lands with a soft thud. Then I plugged in the alley lamp, making sure it was set to green light, which, again, means it was upright and charging. My phone was also plugged in. The screen is set to stay on unless I manually turn it off. I climbed into bed and opened one of my games, something I definitely wouldn't have exited so abruptly without finishing what I was doing. 3 hours later, I wake up, and everything is wrong. I'm sitting upright, against the wedge pillow, in bed, the same pillow I remember tossing to the floor. The lamp is unplugged and flipped over, now glowing with white light. My phone is turned off, and the charger isn't just disconnected from the phone. It's fully unplugged from the wall. It didn't feel like waking from sleep. It felt like stepping into an alternate reality. If it had been just one weird change, I could maybe chalk it up to forgetting something or bumping into something in my sleep. But this, multiple deliberate actions, no way. I've never sleepwalked a day in my life. And even if I did suddenly start, are we really saying that I managed to get out of bed, fetch a heavy pillow, arrange it perfectly, flip and unplug a lamp, power down my phone, and unplug the charger from both ends, all without waking myself up? Not likely. The sheer wrongness of everything filled me with panic. I could feel it in my chest, this intense, creeping fear that something was off in a way I couldn't explain. That's when I grabbed my phone and called my mom, trembling. Her suggestion? A glitch in the matrix. Honestly, I can't think of anything else that makes more sense. Even now, remembering it makes my skin crawl. Something happened, I just don't know what. I have 4 kids. I know I have 4 kids. I can name them, picture their faces, hear their voices in my mind. But lately, I can't shake this feeling that someone is missing. It started subtly. We'd be out running errands or going somewhere as a family, and I'd do my usual quick head count. 1, 2, 3, 4. And every time, I'd get that moment of panic, like I was forgetting someone. My eyes would search around frantically before I'd have to tell myself, consciously and deliberately, there are only 4. You're not missing anyone. But my heart doesn't believe it. It's like there's this shadow in my mind where someone else used to be. A phantom space at the dinner table. A laugh I can almost hear but can't quite place. I brushed it off. Maybe it's just my brain playing tricks on me. Maybe it's just the chaos of parenting and turning 40 and never getting quite enough sleep. I told myself I was imagining things. I never mentioned it to anyone. Then something happened that made my stomach drop. A few days ago, my parents transferred money into my account. $500. I called to thank them, but asked if maybe they'd sent too much by accident. They told me they were sending $100 per kid. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then my mom said, kind of laughing, "Wait, don't you have 5 kids?" "No," I told her, kind of laughing too. "Just 4. Another pause. "Oh, we must be getting old," she said. "We both could have sworn there were 5. That would have been weird enough, but tonight was the moment that truly unsettled me. My daughter walked into the living room, looked around at everyone, her siblings, me, and said, "I know we're all here, but our family feels small." Before I could respond, my son quietly said, "Yeah, it really does." They didn't say it like it was a joke. There wasn't even confusion in their tone, just this quiet certainty. I haven't told them about my own feelings or what my parents said. I haven't told anyone because I already feel ridiculous, maybe even scared. I don't know how to explain this kind of grief over someone who was never there. Or worse, someone I can't quite remember. It feels like something is off, like something has been erased, and we're all just barely noticing the shape of what's missing. Thanks for reading if you've made it this far. I don't know if anyone else has experienced something like this, but I needed to get it out.